Hi, everybody. Leo Babauta of Zen Habits here. And this is a second video about coaching. I just did one about the Zen of coaching, merging Zen and coaching together. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why leaders need support and why they rarely actually get the support that they need and the consequences of that. So we're going to talk about that. Before I do, I want to ask you, please tell me if there's a topic you'd like me to cover in one of these videos. Post it in the comments below. I will read every single comment, and I'm really interested in what you'd like to hear me talk about. If there's some guide you'd like, if you'd like me to help you with tools, if you'd like me to help you with habits or productivity or mindfulness or minimalism or frugality or changing your life in some way, facing fear, creating something in the world, post it. I actually would love to hear from you. I also am trying to engage with people more on this platform. So if you are up for it, subscribe. I'm going to be putting out videos regularly. Share this with people who you think could use more Zen habits in their lives, and just stay engaged. I actually would really, really love to have you engage with me here on this platform. Okay, so why do leaders need support? Now, first of all, let's talk about what a leader is. There's a narrow definition of leader that I think is harmful. A lot of people think of leader as someone who's in a position of authority, the president, the governor, the CEO, the principal. These are like people who have positions of power and authority. And what I think you know at this point, is that not all of those people are actually leaders. They have failed to lead in many ways. And yet there are people who are not in positions of authority, or maybe much lower down the chain, who are actually showing up with full leadership. And in fact, we don't even have to look at people who are in any kind of authority. It could be people who are members of a family or a community, people who are out there protesting and trying to make change in the world, people who are leading their families by serving them, people who are caretakers or community organizers, or putting out content on the internet and trying to help others. These are all versions of leaders, and definitely not stuck on just those either. Leaders can be anybody in any position. The difference is, are you taking responsibility for how you want things to go? Are you taking responsibility, ownership of your life and the life you are creating? Are you taking responsibility for what you're creating with others and in the world? The more we're taking responsibility and owning our impact and what we're trying to create, that is leadership. And the more we absolve ourselves of any kind of responsibility and say, this is just how it is, I can't do anything about it, we actually are giving up our leadership and instead moving towards victimhood. And again, this is not about victim blaming or shaming or any of that kind of stuff. That's a whole separate topic. I'm talking about the world is happening to me. Now, there's nothing wrong with it if that's how your life is going, is the world is happening to me. We actually all have that in some place or another. This feeling of being disempowered, the world is happening to me, I'm a victim, I can't do anything about it, that's just the way things are. That's the way the world is, that's the way I am. This can't be changed. So we can say that that is a lack of leadership. Leadership is, I want things to go a certain way. I want to create a certain life for myself. I want to be exercising every day, for example. If I take responsibility and say, that's something that I want, and I'm going to take responsibility for making it happen, despite the fact that there's a lot of things getting in the way, I am taking leadership in my own life, which is always where leadership starts. We always have to start with ourselves. And then we can take leadership in my family. Let's say I'm married and I have a partner and we're like, not doing that well. We're having problems. Well, am I going to take some leadership in our marriage? Doesn't mean I'm the person in authority, but I am committed to creating the marriage that we want together. And I'm taking responsibility for what I'm doing to not create that, and taking responsibility to actually start working with my partner to create it. That would be an example of not just leadership in my life, but leadership with others. Maybe it's in my community, maybe it's with my friends, maybe taking leadership is happening, taking ownership and responsibility is happening in my workplace or my business. So leadership can happen anywhere. Are you taking responsibility for creating the world that you want, the relationship that you want, the life that you want? And if you are, then that's leadership. So I would imagine people watching this have taken leadership in many places. Maybe you are a parent and you're taking on a lot there. Maybe you're a caretaker of a parent. Maybe you are taking a lot of responsibility at work, maybe 2 jobs. Maybe you're doing some work out in the community. So you might actually have leadership roles in many different places. And what you'll notice is that as a leader, you are going to face challenges. When we start taking responsibility, we're starting to take on the things that we think happen to us. Like the world sucks. It's just happening to me, and they suck and I suck and it all sucks. When we start to take responsibility, it's not that it's harder, because that's pretty hard, just to say everything sucks and it's happening to me. That's a hard life. But when we start taking responsibility, it takes something. It requires something of us to actually start to create something like this. And so as leaders, it requires something of us to take full responsibility and start to take action to change things, to face what we don't want to face, what we've been keeping ourselves safe from. Every person who is a leader in their own lives and in the lives they have with others is facing stuff like this. We're also facing places where we feel like a victim, where things are just happening to us. We face both. But it is challenging to step into that place of responsibility and say, I am going to change my life. I'm going to change the world in some way. It's challenging. And so as leaders, we need support to go through that challenge. It isn't that these challenges are a problem. This is actually just a requirement of leadership. But what we can see is that it will challenge our capacity, our energetic capacity. Like I can't do more right now because I am strained to capacity. And when it challenges our capacity, we will do a few different things. One is we will shut down because I can't do it. I'm overwhelmed and I can't do anymore. But another is I'm going to keep going and going and going and giving and giving and giving. Parents and caretakers are 2 good examples of that. I'm going to keep going beyond my capacity and have burnout and feel resentment and feel burden and feel like I can't do all of this stuff. It will happen. One of those things will happen, maybe all at the same time. So this is why we need support, is because without it, leaders are going to do what they tend to do when they are confronted by whatever is challenging them. Leaders will do what they already know to do, which is our patterns. And those are usually going to be kicked into overdrive. If maybe it's perfectionism, maybe it's avoidance, maybe it's procrastination, maybe it's hiding, maybe it's, trying to control others and micromanaging. Maybe it's lashing out with complaint or anger. Whatever it is that we know to do, we are going to do it extra when we are confronted as leaders. And that's fine. That's human. But as leaders, if we're really going to take full responsibility, we are going to step beyond what we already know into what is needed, what will serve myself and others. And what is needed might be letting go of my patterns, not lashing out at others, taking my anger out in private, responsibly, with a therapist or a coach or a journal or some kind of, embodied practice of anger. And we can get into any of those kinds of things, but I'm going to take responsibility for that so that I can show up for others without lashing out at them, but actually showing up with an open heart. Maybe that's what's needed. And if that's what's needed, then I have to let go of my patterns. And to do that, I have to see that I'm doing my patterns, and I have to get supported to step beyond them. And to do that, what we need is some kind of support. And the support that I give others is coaching. It's the merging of Zen and coaching that I talked about in the last video. So go watch that video if you want to get a comprehensive look at it. But it's a way to support someone so they can move beyond their patterns. They can work with all of the emotions that show up from anger and resentment and frustration to sadness and hurt and loneliness and feeling overwhelmed and scared and anxious, all of that kind of stuff. How do we work with that? With coaching and with a Zen practice. If you can do that, you're going to be able to take on these challenges. You're going to be able to do what's needed as a leader to create what you have committed yourself to creating in your own life and with others. And so it's hard. What we need is support in terms of love and acknowledgement, which we rarely get as leaders. We need support in terms of accountability with gentleness and not like beating us up. We need support in terms of like someone who is holding us to what we say we want to do, but also someone who can hold us when we fall off what we say we want to do. That's the kind of support that we need. Someone who can support us to see what we can't see. Someone who can support us in all of this so that we can actually continue going when we are feeling challenged. We can use the challenges as a place of growth to take ourselves to the next level as leaders. And we can use the challenges as a place to like learn how to support ourselves to get back to capacity, to deal with the overwhelm and fear and patterns. So this is why leaders need support. Now, I think it's an essential thing. And yet when leaders are challenged, they rarely turn towards support. And the reasons are, number one, we think we should be able to do this on our own. So asking for help is something that we have told ourselves, or maybe society has told us, that we shouldn't have to do. We should be able to do this on our own. That is a myth, and it is harmful because it prevents leaders from getting supported. So I should be able to do this on my own is one belief that is deeply held and people don't even realize that they have it. Number two, related to that, is I shouldn't be messy in front of someone else like a coach. It's going to be embarrassing for them to see me like not doing things well, for me to like, they're going to see all the things that I'm embarrassed about myself. That is harmful as well, because what that means is no one can ever see your humanity. Now you have to only show them the good parts and where things are together and you're doing things really well and you're like having all these victories. And then therefore they'll never see the human part of you, the messy part of you. And therefore you're always going to feel like an imposter. You're going to always be inauthentic in hiding that from others. If you have someone who you trust to share that with, then what happens is you start to like have permission to just be who you are, which is huge. 3, we let some challenges get in our way, whether it's time commitment, money commitment, or some other hurdle. We're like, I can't. And therefore I just need to forget about it. So I'm going to talk about how to overcome these obstacles in another video after this. But for now, I want to lay out those as obstacles. And what happens is then people don't get supported. Leaders don't get supported. They take all of this on their own. They feel burdened and overwhelmed and strained to their capacity. They lash out at others, or they overwork themselves, or get caught up in perfectionism or avoidance or whatever it is they do. Things get worse and worse and worse, and they end up burnt out or quitting because they have to leave and this all sucks and I just want to simplify my life. That's what happens. We give up the possibility of what could happen if we could get supported. What could happen if we could learn to resource ourselves, get ourselves back to capacity, like nourish ourselves back to, replenish ourselves back to where we need to be so that we can take on these challenges, take on our fears, and actually create what we want to create in the world. So we lose out on all of that. We also lose out on being able to be human with someone else, get supported, be loved, get acknowledged, like have someone root for us. We miss out on the learnings of accountability without blame. So all of this stuff starts to happen, and we are then modeling for others that we should never get support, that it's okay to just stay in our old patterns, and that support is not really needed. And if I don't have the budget for it, forget it. It's the first thing that gets cut is my support. So it's like we don't matter. We're there to support others, but we don't matter. And that's actually what we're really modeling in the world. If you are sending a message into the world, it's that. Because people will hear your words, but they'll also see your actions. And if you're like, nah, I don't need coaching, I don't need support, then that's what they're going to hear. When I realized this, I realized that what I wanted to model is leaders getting support. And I wanted to stand for that. And what that meant was I needed to commit myself to getting coaching. And so I figured out what I had to do. I worked with the coach that I wanted to work with to create the finances, the time, the commitment, the way of being, so that I could actually step into that kind of support and get that support. And then I'm modeling it for others. And I'm doing it here on this call, in this video as well, is letting you know why I think this is important. So I'm modeling it by my actions, but also in my words. I believe this is so important. Leaders in our healthcare industry are strained to the point where they are quitting their jobs or getting burnt out. Leaders in our education industry are getting strained. And when I say leaders, I'm talking about teachers and principals and, school aides and nurses and doctors and everybody in between. They're getting burnt out. People who are in pretty much every field, people who are in factories, people who are in farms, people who are cooking our food, people who are taking care of our roads and our houses, they are strained and they're not getting supported. So what I really stand for is every person who is doing some kind of leadership getting some kind of support. I have a few ways to do that if you want to do that with me. I do one-on-one coaching, which is coaching.zenhabits.net. Look at the page, fill out the application, come talk with me. It's a free call. So one-on-one coaching work. I have a small group coaching program called Fearless Mastery that runs once a year for 9 months, starting in January. If you're interested in that, there's 15 to 20 people who go for 9 months. We do a weekly call. We have a lot of stuff in that. Come and talk with me as well. Just email me at podcast@zenhabits.net, and I will get that email. And we can talk about Fearless Mastery. I also have my Fearless Living Academy, which is my membership program. It's a monthly membership where I have videos on all of this stuff. There's a community. We have a monthly kind of challenge where you practice with this kind of stuff. And that's the lowest price commitment. But all three of these are ways to get supported. So these are what I offer. Come and talk with me. Leave a comment below if you have questions about any of this stuff. If you agree with me and think leaders need to get supported, if you see something that's getting in your way of getting supported, please post it. And again, your ideas for video topics, really, really important. Please, I ask you, post it. Okay. That is why leaders need support and why they often don't get it and what happens as a result.